What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. This is SRL, the League Racing Championship that I take part on Friday nights. So this is the championship that I basically use as practice for pretty much my AOR league, which I'm gunning for the championship with. So, yeah, this is not that championship, this is the practice one that's on Friday nights, like I said, just to clarify that, because there are a lot of people who still get confused between the two leagues. But yeah, this is Singapore. This race itself took place 2 weeks ago. So for me, a lot of this I don't even remember. But away we go for the Singapore Grand Prix. We qualified on P2. Warren got an absolutely amazing start off the line, and we're just going to have to settle into P2 where we started. Hazardous Jared was really threatening there as we went into turn 1. We managed to hold that position, and we can get on with our race. So we qualified P2. As is always the case with this league, I don't really do that much practice for this league, and I don't think anyone else really does either, so that's why times are probably nowhere near on the scale of what they are for AOR when people have the track experience and just more practice for these races. But everyone still wants to win, and that is certainly the case. But you can see 11 laps into this race, we already have the rain setting in. It's set to go even heavier over the next 5 to 10 minutes, and I actually got some front wing damage on this lap as well, which was a little bit unfortunate because we were right behind Warden at this stage, and we were looking to possibly take the lead, but as you can tell, wasn't quite the case. But you can see now the heavy rain is starting to set in, and we're going to pit on for a set of wet tyres on this lap. Yeah, the game said that it was going to be heavy rain for the next 15, 20 minutes-ish, depending on how slowly the rain dissipates. But we rejoin on the track on wet tyres in between Pomps of the Wind and Jetson F1. And bear in mind, it is heavy rain at this point of the race. And you can see we rejoin right behind Poms, and all of a sudden he is gapped us by like 4, maybe even 5 seconds. And Jetson, my teammate, was absolutely all over me for the first few laps there. It was a real period there where, you know, even though it was heavy rain, the intermediate tyres were still faster, and we finally get to a point many laps later where the wets have finally overtaken the inters for natural pace, and we're starting to glide through the field now at the moment. But pretty much everyone else in the field stayed out on intermediate tyres, which I found to be really, really confusing. Myself and only Hazardous Jared pitted for wet tyres. That spell didn't really last too long, and we're back onto intermediate tyres, whereas everyone else in the field has still stayed on their intermediate tyres that they've done the whole race on. And so, yeah, I kind of screwed up this race for pitting for wet tyres. I've lost about 40 seconds doing the additional 2 stops, and our race really went nowhere. So that's why this race was touched upon very, very quickly, because that was the entire race. Oh my goodness, I've just knocked my keyboard. But there you go. We were challenging for the win, and we completely threw it away by pitting for wet tyres when everyone else stayed out on intermediate tyres. I mean, I don't know what inside information everyone else had, but I thought for sure the wet tyres would have worked, but we just lost too much time, and we didn't really gain the time on the wet tyres that I was hoping we would. So that was that race, P7. But that's okay, because we're not really fighting for the championship. We joined this season halfway through. I think the first race we took part in was like Austria. And so, yeah, there's absolutely no pressure on me to get wins, to get podiums. Really, for me, this is all about practice for AOR, like I've said. So, you know, I wanted to test the waters with the wet tyres to see if it was the right strategy. It wasn't. It's now important for me to learn on this now and apply it to a situation in AOR. So that's what I'm going to do. But we now move off to Malaysia. And yeah, this is a race that took part 1 week ago. I still have to upload another race, which was the Japanese Grand Prix, which I actually did yesterday. And that's a really good race. I want to save that for an individual video on its own. But yeah, another wet race. As you can tell by the title, I do not like the rain. And we're set to have another fully rain-affected race as well. So this could be very interesting. And I've touched upon my kind of lack of pace in changeable conditions. And this, again, has further cemented, you know, my lack of experience in that area. So going forward, we really do need to practice wet weather scenarios. In fact, in a few hours, I've got AOR Malaysia itself coming up, so I need to do some wet weather practice for that race if I want to succeed. But here for the race, wet for the pretty much first stint of the race, and then we'll be switching on to intermediate tyres. 5 red lights and away we go to the Malaysian Grand Prix, starting down the order in P8. We've got a lot of work to do in order to get ourselves towards the front. I didn't do myself justice in qualifying. I did the entire quali session on the one set of tyres, and I think Aaron up the front there has actually taken out New Zealand Ryan, who started on pole position for this Malaysian Grand Prix. He's now got front wing damage. Aaron has completely gone off the track. I've run into the side of HO there, so apologies about that. It's just been a really messy start, but P8 to P4, and that first corner was just absolute carnage. I don't know what to say. I believe Aaron got a qualifying ban for the next race in SRL for that. I don't know what that was, as we'll bring up a replay now. You can see Aaron, he slows down initially for turn 1, but then all of a sudden he just gains so much speed and then runs into the side of Ryan, and the stewards had no choice but to give him a penalty for that. That looks pretty dodgy. Unfortunately, there was no onboard footage of Aaron's point of view there to show what actually happened. But yeah, it's ruined Ryan's race in a sense. But at least he's still got some of his front wing. He can kind of push on, and if the wet conditions go away fairly quickly, then Ryan can pit onto intermediate tyres, fix his front wing, and then get on with his race once again. But we cut back to the action now. This is on board with HO, going up the inside of HO, sorry, into the final corner, and that is us back up into P4. So a pretty decent start. Warden leads, and we've got Harry Ryan in front of us, and I believe Hazardous Jared in P2 as well. But then just out of nowhere, Harry runs wide. I think it was a bit of a lock-up heading into turn 4, and he just gives us P3. So a very, very easy position for us. Warden is pretty much running away with his race. Very comfortable in these wet weather conditions. Hazardous Jared as well, very quick on the wet compound tyre as well. We start to make some inroads on Jared, but then after that, Jared, I think, started to find his rhythm, find his momentum, and he started to edge out the gap again. So I, in a response, started to push a little bit harder, and as a result, went a bit wide into that Sergio Perez infamous corner where he could have won the Malaysian Grand Prix in 2012. We give up the position to HO, and now we're going to have to re-overtake him again, which is only going to hamper our progress in trying to catch both Warden and Jared for the top steps of the podium. But people are coming into the pits already. I think it's time for intermediate tyres. We're deciding to carry on for another lap because we have track position, and if we stay out the extra lap, it'll give us a little bit more flexibility later on in the race. And then HO on the following lap does the exact same thing that I did on the previous lap. It's so easy to do. There's no real reference for when to brake. You're both braking and turning at the same time for that corner, and so it's really awkward, especially in wet weather conditions where it's so easy to do that. But yeah, we're into the pits now. Intermediate tyres are going to go on, and unlike Singapore, should I say, I don't believe these tyres will go to the end. The front tyres really take a beating around this place, and if you try and risk it to the end of the race, I think you'll really risk getting a puncture. So we'll see how it goes, but I think it's set to dry out towards the end of the race anyway, so I think this might be the only stint on the intermediate tyres during this race. But yeah, we're back into P3. Jared maintaining P2. Warden still out the front as he was, but the gap to those guys is only extended by 5 or 6 seconds, especially to Jared. He's I think he's starting to close in on Warden, such as his pace in this Grand Prix. But you see there a few clips ago, Ryan got up into P4. His pace has been pretty mega, that which is probably pretty similar to Warden's, and he is really starting to make some inroads in this Grand Prix. So soon enough, we might see a battle between myself and Ryan once again. This time, actually not for a race win. Both of us are having some pretty ordinary races, it must be said. But 13 laps to go. Ryan is really putting the hammer down now. We're really having to conserve on fuel. I seriously underfueled this car because I know that in wet weather conditions, you don't really need to use fuel all that much. You're running in lean quite a lot to minimize the wheel spin. And yeah, we're just having to conserve quite a bit. I think I probably should have chucked in a little bit more fuel than what I did, but Yeah, negotiating lap cars. There was someone who was on super soft tyres, and that is way too early. Way too early for those tyres. I think we're actually going to lap that guy again. This is the guy on super soft tyres, Ruthmick or something. I don't know what he's doing, but that is totally the wrong compound. I think like dry running is like 5 or 6 laps away, but you can see there the intermediate tyres are already starting to die. 70% on the front tyres. They're really taking a beating, and so we're gonna have to probably pit on for a new set of intermediate tyres. But like the dry conditions are only a few laps away, so this is coming at a really awkward time for a lot of us here. So yeah, I think for the majority of us, we were all waiting for the track to dry up, but yeah, the tyres just aren't going to make it. We'll stretch it, and no, we'll actually come in on this lap. So yeah, onto intermediate tyres. It might only be like a 3 or 4 lap stint on these tyres, but yeah, I think a lot of us thought we could have made it, but hindsight is a beautiful thing. If we would have stopped maybe 4 or 5 laps ago, we might have been able to make our race time a lot better. But into the pits we go now for another set of intermediate tyres. It's myself versus Ryan in the pit stops. We react pretty much perfectly there to the light, and we managed to stay ahead of Ryan. We might have actually gained a little bit in the pit stops there, but as we rejoin on the track, we emerge in front of Neon Tree Dome, Master Berserk, a few of those guys, and Ryan actually gets caught up behind them, so that's going to delay his progress a little bit. But meanwhile for us, we were just gunning on, pressing on as much as we could. We were setting personal bests of the race on intermediate tyres, but now the track has started to dry out quite considerably, and I think this might be the lap to pit onto dry tyres, so we'll have to wait and see how it goes. It's actually really slippery when the track really starts to dry up. The chances of locking up and, you know, spinning up the rear tyres is just that much higher because the grip is not there, the tyres are not in their operating window. We get around the outside of HO, who was stuck it out on his intermediate tyres for the last, I don't know, 20 laps or whatever it is, and he was really getting close to puncture territory there. He just let us through. But lap 24, in for dry tyres. Now we've sped into the pit lane, and that is a 5-second stop-go penalty for us heading our way either in this pit stop or at the end of this Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see what the guys do. They're deciding to box the cars and change the tyres. So we'll get a 5-second time penalty applied at the end of the Grand Prix, so that might mean we lose the podium, which is a real shame because we were in the running to get P3 this entire race. But as we rejoin on the track, Master Berserk and HO reacted 1 lap earlier than us for dry tyres, and they managed to get quite a sizable gain out of that. So yeah, we've definitely got our work cut out for us now for the dying lap for this Grand Prix. HO runs wide, and that's one of the easiest positions I'll get in this race. But you can see Ryan looking really threatening. We didn't get the best run out of that double right-hander, and now he's looking to make a move around the outside, has to tuck in and bide his time for the moment. Here comes Ryan again, up the inside into the final corner. There's actually a little bit of a touch there, and I had to correct the slide to make sure I didn't spin out there. And Ryan's car is ghosted. Something's happened to Ryan. Either his controller has run out of batteries or something weird like that. He's not in control of his car, and yeah, he's losing time hand over fist there. So some kind of issue for Ryan. We'll hopefully see what happened to him later on in the race. But we're pressing on here. Ryan is out of the Grand Prix now. Ryan is out. That's weird. That is so weird. I actually found out after the race that his Xbox had an update with only like 3 laps to go, and that is, I think it happened right at the moment where he was going up my inside, and so that wasn't Ryan who actually touched me and sent me sideways a little bit. He was already out of the race at that point, so fair play to Ryan. Really unlucky for him as well, because he's in a championship battle with Warden as well, and Warden is going to get 4 points and close the gap to like 40 odd points with only a few races. I think it might be more than 40 points, but either way, not the kind of result that you want. And unfortunately for Ryan as well, he wasn't able to get back in the race in time to see the checkered flag, so he won't get any points out of this race, unfortunately. But Warden 99 wins the Grand Prix. Hazardous Jared is going to get P2. 3rd place is still up in the air with Master Berserk right in front of us. I don't know if he has any penalties. We still have that 5-second time penalty to add to our race time at the end. Master Berserk is weaving, and he was getting a little bit cocky there. I knew that I could probably break really late into that corner. I got much closer than what I thought I could, but it's P4 in the Malaysian Grand Prix. It got really close there with Master Berserk weaving across the line, and it even says that I finished in front of him, which I don't know, maybe he has penalties. We'll have to wait and see. But that was the Grand Prix. Warden P1, Hazardous Jarrah P2, and it says Master Berserk in the end getting P3. So, yeah, that was the race. I think the game has given me a 10-second time penalty, so it's doubled up on my speeding in the pit lane charge, so we'll have to take 5 seconds off of that finishing time, but I think that should give me P4 in the Grand Prix. But either way, that has been SRL Singapore and SRL Malaysia. 2 races where things just didn't go to plan. Singapore, I just made the wrong decision with the strategy. Malaysia, I went with a weird setup, which I don't think worked in the end there, and I didn't really have much pace. So it's back to the drawing board. A lot of practice is needed in changeable conditions so that we can be competitive in these kind of situations. But that was this race for today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more F1 2017 content. And until the next race, the Japanese Grand Prix, I'll see you next time.